Radio on Super Talk 1270. Now, here's Travis Feist and Rob McLeod.
So welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Unriveted, a Dakota Customs original podcast. I'm your host, Travis Feist, and with me, and always, is my co-host, Rob McLeod.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon. It's been a couple weeks since we've done a live podcast.
All of 2 weeks.
Yeah, been busy.
Yeah.
And absent. 3 weeks? Jeez, that's even worse. Didn't see him by 3 weeks.
I was busy for all 3 of those weeks.
Of course you were.
You were busy for 2 of them.
Yeah,
but
barely, apparently.
You had a nice little vacation.
Well, I wouldn't say vacation. It would be
adventure.
Like a venture.
For sure.
Time away. Yeah. Took a bike ride down to Arizona. That was definitely an experience, like it should always be, but we'll just leave it as that. We chased sheep. Hey, I'll say that. We were in a sheep herding thing with the motorcycles. That was a very unique experience. Got caught up sheep herding on the highway.
What kind of roads were you taking? Were there sheep?
It was 2-lane, and that's how we like to ride, is everything on 2-lane. And they decided on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock that they were going to herd about 300 sheep. That
had to have been in Wyoming.
Nope, Utah. Yeah. Dude, they can have Utah. I'm sorry, but I'm not a fan of Utah. But they decided to herd sheep that day, and so we got caught up, and I think for about 2 miles we actually helped herd the sheep because they did not get them off the road, and we just kept pushing them to get through, and we helped herd sheep. I think that's a real thing, but...
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so we were a part of that. That's probably an experience that you don't see every day, but...
They must have been lame sheep and not... like breeding sheep?
Sure, they were white.
Oh, okay, fluffy.
Yeah, like the Serta commercial. I don't know. They were they were sheep. Yeah.
I know there's a difference. There's definitely not calling myself a sheep expert, but I'm not. I know nothing about sheep, but I know these two facts.
Okay.
There's lame sheep, and then there's the sheep that are like meant to use for like breeding, and the lame sheep are what they use to fuzz for cotton, and then like the sheep that are aggressive and that will take you down.
Mm-hmm.
There's that breed of sheep too.
Yeah, none of these sheep wanted to take me down, so I'm guessing they were the pillow sheep then, or whatever you call them.
The ones you count
sure.
at night?
Yeah, I don't know, but they didn't seem very mean and aggressive, so they were, to me, they're sheep. I don't know what breed or kind or what style or shape, but they were sheep. So, but
for the record, I'm not a sheep expert.
Yeah, so, but again, we helped herd sheep with the Harleys, so that was quite the experience. But no, it was fun. It was cool. It was definitely well needed, but I was definitely missing. What's that?
It wasn't
a bad idea. No, it wasn't.
Anyways,
yeah. But it was definitely well needed. We ran into like over 2 days of just rainy weather. It was cold. That part of it sucked also, but it's about making memories and stories.
Actually, I'm just glad that you stuck to your guns and went on the trip. Because how many times have you had a vacation scheduled and we got so tied up at the shop, you just said you canceled your plane tickets and just stayed back and you moved on?
More than once, and I think what happens is that my anxiety gets the best of me of, like, if I was to leave and not staying back... It's kind of that business mentality that I actually, even if I would go, I would drive myself absolutely nuts because I wouldn't be able to enjoy it. So it's just better off to just face what's going on and handle stuff at the shop. Not saying it's bad, but just the workload and everything we got going on. And to be honest with you, I was almost at a over 90% chance I was probably going to not go on this because I was that like, hey, we need to get stuff done. I knew we're always behind. I mean, it's never going to change. And I think that was when you came to me and you said, you're going to go regardless because even if you stay back and even if you do the amount of work, there's just that much work waiting for you again anyways. So you might as well just go and enjoy yourself.
I said just go on the trip.
Yeah. So it was like literally, it was a last minute thing because we left Friday and Thursday. I was still in the work mode that I ain't going. I got stuff to do, and I think it was just that night that.
It's funny. All the office gals knew that you took off before I did, and I was like, "Well, he's gone."
Well, they were blowing up my phone that night. I was getting texts, I know, from Mary and Amy, and they're like, "You are leaving. If you even show up at work tomorrow, we will lock the doors, and we're not letting you in. You are going on this trip." So I figured it was.
No, I mean, it's like Travis here, man. I got some stuff for you, man.
Man, I got you booked. It's like you're in the back. Like the girls are like pushing me out the door, like go, and you're in the background, like. No, you're like, come on, come in.
No, I'm glad you went, man.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Just to kind of clear my head a little bit, but it was actually, I'm glad. I mean, I couldn't wait to get back, and it's just, I don't know. I love what I do, so it's kind of like being away from home. It's like, hey, I'm glad that I'm gone, but I miss it. I want to get back. I want to get back into it. I want to branch and turn, and I miss not being at work, but it does feel good every now and then to actually step away and take a breather. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is nice to be gone and not have to, I think I got one phone call the whole time, and that's me reaching out to you.
I told you to call me.
Yeah. But it was all, I mean, you guys handle it. So it's a good feeling too, that I can step away and not have to worry about nothing.
Yeah, it was basically, that was regarding some Carly lift kits on swapping from a 21 dually to a 24 dually. And we got some cool, we'll get back to the lift kits here. Got some cool projects in the shop. One being a 77 Scout that we shifted gears in. And we're going to go LS3 6L80 on a right side drive, front axle.
Yeah, that one, it went from being a keep it all original stock to now it's like almost a concept, like totally took a right turn hard, but it switched owners, and I'm glad because that truck almost...
It'll be appreciated now.
It needed it.
Done.
Yeah.
That was a huge blessing. Just kind of shifted directions on a 69 Chevelle that we got in. Beans, our guest is a Chevelle guy. Travis is obviously a Chevelle guy. I thought this, talked pretty briefly with the owner of this one. I thought we were just going to do a little bit of sheet metal repair, and we're going to paint this thing and do some custom sheet metal on it. So,
and it's kind of crazy, and I'm thinking that you could probably see this too, but even the years of doing what we've been doing and I've been doing, you talk to the customer and they're, because that originally started that we're just going to do panel replacement, sheet metal, and that's kind of like where that was at. And then they came to the shop. We gave them a tour. We walked through. We showed them what we were capable of doing and everything that we have done. We showed them some cars that we were in the process of working on and that we've done. And now it went from just us putting panels on to like we're going to do some customized work. We're going to paint the car. We're going to assemble the car. Like that whole door just opened up that like they went from a simple job to like we're building this car.
I just had a good feeling about this one.
Yeah, and, you always do. Yeah.
Travis is like, man, do we really need another project as we're wall to wall with like 14 projects? And I was like, we need to get this one in here. It's going to be cool. But one project that we're in the middle of right now is a 23 Ram 1-ton dually, and we sourced a kit from Calvin Gazda at 4 Wheel Parts, and that is who's our guest today.
Oh, nice.
So, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, Calvin?
Yeah, gentlemen. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Nice to be on here with you. And man, we when we got turned on to you guys and you reached out to us, we wanted to help. You guys sound like a shop that's cut from a very similar cloth to us, and we thankfully have specialized in the suspension and driveline aspect of things. Typically more so on 4-wheel drive SUV, but of course, we're gearheads too. So
Nice.
I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a Chevelle or a Charger at home, and we like to play with all that same stuff. So
Definitely.
when you guys reach out to us, we're big with BDS suspension. We're Minnesota's first and largest distributor for them, and been with them for over 20 years. And just one thing to clarify, so we're based about 25 minutes north of the Twin Cities. We're a family-owned four-wheel drive and suspension shop, and our business name is Four Wheel Parts and Service.
And
we also
service.
go by Four Wheel PSI.
Okay.
But just to clarify, we are not affiliated with like 4WP.com and any of that business over there. So we are we're like you guys, man. We're family-owned. We're driven by passion. We've been in one single location here for going on 25 years next year. So
Cool.
30 years next year, 94.
That's awesome.
So we're excited to be here and excited to be able to have forged a relationship with you guys with some of our suspension insight, knowledge, and product support. So happy to be here.
Do you guys, and I know I probably shouldn't be asking this on the air, but do you guys kind of give tours of your place if like Rob and I decide to come down there? Like you could show us around, and because I'm sure it's a
shop. We got to bury you out back, so as long as you don't hurt yourself.
Yeah,
we absolutely anytime we have an interested party, whether it's a client, checking out the shop, maybe like you had said, kind of scoping out our capability. 100%, we're transparent. Our doors are open. Like I said, my mom and dad, Gary and Wendy, they started the shop back in '94. My dad was deeply rooted into the mud racing, Midwestern Mud Racing Association, along with a lot of drag racing. And so he actually, believe it or not, the core of our business started in driveline, so specifically differential, axle, and gear. And from there, as you guys might have noticed, especially with Travis, is like, as a business owner, our hobbies kind of dictate or kind of direct some of where our business goes, right? So all of a sudden, like you wouldn't necessarily assume that a 6-pack 4-speed 70 V code Super B convertible was restored in our shop. And I may not want to do another one again because I've learned that restorations are very, very difficult to get paid on.
And then a Mopar on top of that.
Man, that was one heck of a righteous car, and
sure.
you'd never guess, right? Because people drive by our shop and they just assume we build monster trucks. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, absolutely,
yeah. So, how I got in contact with Kelvin is, which BDS kit was I trying to get a hold of? I think it wasn't one we ended up doing. I think the customer backed out for some whatever reason.
Sure.
But so I called BDS, so I've only been doing this. I've only been working for Travis for about 3 years, going on 3 years.
Yeah.
I've always kind of been interested in, I've always had big diesel trucks, and I always just loved cars and trucks since I was little. And so I was kind of figuring out the game. Travis just kind of let me run with this position. And so this customer wanted a BDS kit, so I just called BDS directly, not knowing any better. And they're like, oh, you got to buy through a dealer. I was like, okay, who's my dealer? They're like, Tough Trucks in Minot. I was like, yeah, I'm not going to call a direct competitor source a lift kit. So I called Wheel Pros, and I think it was like, I know there's a couple mics at Wheel Pros Minneapolis. I think it was like one of the OG mics. He's like, you got to talk to Kelvin. You got to talk to Kelvin. And I was like,
Mike, Matt, Blake. Dude, those guys at Minneapolis Wheel Pros those are some stand-up gentlemen.
Dude,
they're fantastic dudes. And
yeah,
so it was probably Blake, I think, because he's the one that had given me a heads up. He's like, hey, there's this Dakota Customs. And when he first said that, I was like, oh, like the one in South Dakota that does all the Hemi Jeep conversions. He's like, no, these guys are in Mandan. Like Mandan, like North Dakota, like where it's just windy.
Essentially,
yeah. And
so
it worked out for sure.
But yeah, the guy at Wheel Pros like instantly put you on a pedestal, and I was like, well, and I don't even think I ended up calling you on that kit particular, but I think it was like a few months later, I needed a BDS kit. I think the first one I got from you was for that 24 Denali, that one ton.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, and instantly right out of the gate, you talking with you on the phone, lived right up. You were sitting right on that pedestal that my Wheel Pros rep put you on. So yeah, it was nice.
Hold on.
Well, no, it's just like
big head now.
I learned. All right, we're gonna ruffle some feathers here.
Yeah.
I learned
31 years old, and the older I get, I learn more as I go, and I learn something generally every day, and that's something that has been, my dad and I, we've been able to, we've had some pretty, magical growth together. I mean, not many people get to work with their family and actually prefer it. It's not for everyone, and him and I have a very tight relationship. And
that's awesome.
His big thing is always, don't ever act like or ever think that you know it all, because you don't. And the second you do, you're not willing to absorb new information. You're not willing to grow. And so one thing that is just so, I guess, infused into my blood is, it's just I take whatever I like, I take it and I hone in on it, and I want to either perfect my craft or try to perfect my craft, or I want to gain as much knowledge and understand something. And I think that's the nature of being a gearhead. And so with suspension and lift kits and drivetrain, it's something that is, I almost take it to a nerdy level. And when you go to any industry, even if you're buying a washer and dryer somewhere, you want to kind of seek out the guy that eats, sleeps, and breathes washers and dryers. You know what I mean? You wouldn't, but that's the guy you want to see when you want to do justice to your $1 million house. Well, when you want to do justice to your $120,000 F450 Platinum, let's spend some more time than just jumping online and clicking the first cheapest Amazon special, right?
For sure.
Right. I think we just became best friends.
Yeah. Is that slightly OCD driven, trying to be the best?
But not trying to be the best to get a trophy, right? Just trying to be the best because
knowledge.
You want to have the mindset of whatever I'm going to do and put effort in. I want to do it to a certain. I want to do it to a level that I can feel proud of, right? And so, and I think that's where it comes from for any guy or gal that wants to get out and wrench. It's just like, I want to prove that I can do this, even if it's something that's outside my wheelhouse. I want to prove that I can do this, and then you start putting more notches in your belt. And the next thing you know, what was challenging 3 years ago, you're doing in your sleep. And,
right.
A lot of people, I think they make more out of it. And get your hands dirty, man. Let's rock and roll. We love customer carry out lift kits, man. I love the 19-year-old kid that comes in. He's like, dude, I got an 88 to 98 Chevy half ton. We're just going to throw a $999 6-inch rough country in because that's what the truck deserves, and I'm going to do it myself on a Saturday and Sunday. And I'm like, dude, I'm game. Here's the kit. Come back if you got any questions. It keeps the hobby alive too. Do
you know what's crazy? Like right there at that moment, you know what I just thought of?
On that Blazer?
No, that clip on Fast and Furious when he's in the speed shop and Hector comes in. He's got a wad of cash and he's got the list of I want the twin turbos, and he gives him that list.
3 T66 turbos with NOS.
And he's like, come on, white boys, work fast. I can see Kelvin right there. He's just lit up and he's punching away at getting this 19-year-old kid this pickup's backed up and it's just heaping full of boxes and wheels and tires. That's just what I pictured right there. That's you, just the pride that you hooked this guy up.
We're all about, that's the other thing too is, you get involved in the community enough and something pretty wild's been happening for the last few years over here is we have other shops now that buy from us and there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of change in the last 5-10 years in our industry and probably mostly thankful to the internet, not in a necessarily good way, but everyone clicks then needs help. And so, we're in this scenario where people are buying the kit. Getting a kit sale is the easy part. So the problem is that there's these guys out there. I got an 07 to 13 half-ton Chevy, right? I go on and I'm not going to pick on any brands here in specific, but we all know who makes them. But hey, I got an 08 half-ton Chevy. Oh, man, I don't want to do a 4 or 6-inch lift. I want to do a 3.5, right? Well, before they even call us, right? Before they call the specialist, and I think we need to get back to our roots in how we work with each other before the internet and maybe use a little bit of both of our resources, because there's too many people that click and then they put it in, or they come to me and they say, hey, I've got this 3.5-inch kit. And I'm like, dude, I wouldn't sell this lift kit to my worst enemy. Your upper ball joints are going to come out of their pockets in about 8,000 miles. And so we see a lot of that, but it's really cool because over time, the proof is in the pudding. You can't fake this stuff. So if there's kits that aren't righteous, if there's suspension geometries
they're
that
not
are
around.
not helpful,
Yeah.
right? They're not right. You can't fake it. And so the proof comes out in the pudding. And at the end of the day, customers need someone that they can rely on. That a customer comes into my door, they might not like what I have to say, and I'll try to put it in the most professional way, but I'm gonna be 100% straight with them. Because the last thing I want is to wear egg on my face because I gave them what they asked for. They should be coming to me because they need some direction.
Right. And you're not just making a sale, you're making sure they're getting what they want or get their best bang for their buck is what it comes down to.
That, and you're developing a relationship. You're not just, like you said, it's not a transactionary thing.
Right.
It's I've got customers. In fact, this is from a business owner standpoint. This is a shortfall of mine. We do zero marketing. Zero. Like, Travis, you call me up, you're like, hey, dude, my marketing gal's going to call you. I'm like, dude, you got a marketing gal? This is ridiculous. Like, we got Wi-Fi, I think, 2 years ago, So we don't do what we could for growing our business. But I tell you what, man, all of our business is word of mouth, return business. And so, like you said, you cannot fake that. It's proof in the pudding. It's the late nights, making sure it's right, and you can't fake it. And so that's where, when we seek out relationships with other businesses and we can kind of sniff out that same vibe or cut from that same cloth, like we need to kind of band together. We need to work together because it's more important than a transactional relationship.
It's definitely important from like a safety standpoint where we take vehicles very seriously. I always tell our guys back in the shop, sometimes they see this as a job, but they also got to remember that they're working on someone's vehicle that they could potentially have their kids in or something like that. They need every aspect of that vehicle to be done right and in a proper functioning order. So it's like when you say you have a no BS attitude, that's it has to be that way because vehicles are something that should not be taken lightly by any means, whether it's a simple changing out brake pads to, putting a 9-inch FTS lift in it. It's everything. I get pretty worked up about it because it's like, it's got to be right. These are people's vehicles.
Right.
It's crucial.
Yeah.
And another caveat to that too is at the end of the day, I mean, and my dad will remind me this of every day. We have 30 years of hard work built up here and accumulated, and we're way over cautious about retorquing lug nuts. And, I mean, we are overly cautious, but in knock on wood, 30 years, we don't have issues. But he reminds me, all it takes is moving too fast, or maybe not giving the correct attention to a component, or not paying attention to a certain geometry that's taking place, and the entire 30 years of what's been built here, which is a humble, a humble living, that goes away in an instant. We have, I think the stat was like there's like 3 lawyers for every human being in this country. So at the end of the day, safety is number one, and number 2, understanding the gravity of that, because 100%, man, these guys are driving down the road, and I know you've seen this, and it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. I'll see a freaking, before they came out with 10-ply versions, I'd see a lifted 13 LML Duramax running on P-rated 420s on 2212 stretched, P-rated tires, and the dude's literally hauling a skid steer.
Yeah.
Whatever shop allowed that to happen really needs to reconsider, like maybe either stick to the OEM stuff where you've got a guide telling you everything, or you've really got to slow down and you've really got to pay attention to what is taking place.
You know what the worst part about that is that someone allowed that tire package to go out the door just so they can make a quick buck, and that could have injured not only one but multiple people in an accident.
100%.
That's
100%.
yeah.
And then the other thing too is, so like backing away from the safety aspect, like let's be for real. It's not 1997, and we're not throwing $412 lifts in square bodies. Like this is like we just did a base model 21 F-150. We did a 4-inch BDS, really nice snap ring Fox kit. And the customer specifically went out and bought more of a base model truck because he knew we were going to rip everything out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say that 21 F-150 was still like $55,000, and it had cloth seats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, we're not playing with $10,000 TJs anymore.
No.
And so when a customer does come in and they're like, hey, I've got this brand new Denali Ultimate, how about this? I'm not going to throw the brand out, but how about this stretch kit, 3.5-inch torsion key, crank my keys, upper arms are not happy, truck's going to ride stiffer, but this is what I need for 35s on 10 wides. And I'll say, you can achieve the look, and if you look down the side of the truck, we're going to be so fight and camber. The tire's not going to look straight up and down, and we're going to burn through ball joints. Like CV axles are not designed to run at angles that are approaching the max, right? If you pay attention to some of like the Cognito kits out there and some of the other brands, they'll actually have you cut off the frame stop that's welded on the frame for the upper control arm. Well, that's basically giving the middle finger, right, to the GM engineers saying, no, that CV axle can travel another 15 degrees.
Right.
And it can't. It'll just explode.
Yeah. But and then tell them
why
to use...
would we do that to a $100,000 truck?
Right. And then tell them to use a four-wheel drive when it comes to that point, too. And they're going to bring the truck back and say, man, this thing is like, it handles like crap. It's like I'm on ice. And they're going to be like, yep, that's why.
It's tough. And sometimes as a business owner, sometimes you got to dance around, like if a customer, for example, if you get the implication that the customer is maybe looking for something just outside their budget, right? It doesn't matter how you work the numbers. It's not doable for what they're looking for. Sometimes you can't just dance around it. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, dude, this is the right build. This is where we really should be. I don't want you to compromise. We don't want to put a Chinese container tire on this truck because it's going to negate the nice Fox shocks and lift kit because your container tire is going to shake going down the road at 62, and you're going to look at me and I'm going to say it's not because of the stick weights. We can try balancing beads. They don't work. Oh, it's because the hole in the tire is not in the center of the circle, and you can't fix that. So, at the end of the day, sometimes it is okay to just pump the brakes and say, all right, if this is the build you want to do. I've sent a lot of customers the direction of, hey, man, this is what it's going to take. I don't think I would do it any other way. When you're ready to rock and roll and pull the lever, come see me. And if you think you want to change your plan, that's fine. I don't want to do it at the expense of the quality of what is going to be leaving my build.
For sure. I've been fortunate in that position to where when I got on board with Travis, he's had enough of a reputation, and his business was pretty stable to where if a customer, I generally try to spec wheels and tires and lift kits with products that I would only put on my personal vehicles. And it's went a long ways with me. It's actually helped me become a pretty good sales guy in this industry. But if they don't want to run the kit that I spec out for them or I do up an estimate with, just say it's fine. It's not a, like... We're busy enough. I can, So like, I'm not doing that to be like snobby or anything like that. But it's like, I want to put good hard parts on these vehicles, and I say this about probably 3 or 4 times a week. I will never sell Chinese tires. We'll never sell them. I said there's 3 brands. There's Nitto, Mickey, Toyo, Falcon. That's about the only 3 brands I work with. So.
And if you look at how the price points of those tires reflect, one would find that you kind of get what you pay for. And I want to I wish this would just get drilled into our society more and more, because I feel like people have deviated away from that notion. I mean, everyone's always looking for the best deal. So here's your fair warning to anyone out there that's, it doesn't matter if you're in high school and you're flipping patties and you're looking out at your 12 F-150 and you want to put a lift in it, or if you're 37 and you're kind of going through a midlife crisis and you want to, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's like, we want to make sure that we're guiding you into doing it the right way. And it's okay. It's okay for us to, if someone seeks out an expert, it's 100% okay for the expert to have a spine. It's not even to be defensive. It's not to be offensive by any means, but it's okay for that expert to have a spine. You wouldn't go to the knee doctor and say, something's wrong with my knee. What do you think it is? And the doctor's going to say, well, it could be this, this, or this. In no one's right mind would you say, well, I did read on WebMD that if I had this, if it hurt when I put my thumb right here, that I probably have a torn ACL. I mean, in any other scenario or industry or environment, you would not even question leaning into the expert and just taking their word for it and trusting them. That has dwindled, and I think a lot of people get that mixed up with. There's obviously a huge stigma in the auto repair industry that I didn't believe for 15 years because it doesn't happen here, but it happens, and that's, there's some deceit and there's a lot of nefarious things that take place at repair shops.
And
so I think people they use that nervousness and they turn that into, well, then how do I know I can trust you? Right?
And a true expert isn't gonna manipulate what he has to say based off what he's hearing from a customer. A true expert is going to say what he has to say, and that's what it is. He's not going to be he's not going to question what he's saying based off what a customer's trying to tell him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't waver.
Yeah, you don't come to a middle ground. It's like, no, you're the expert. That's what it is. Yeah.
And it's okay if a customer doesn't like what you have to say. That's not the point. The point is we want to try to get down to the nitty gritty and the truth. And I'm going to say right now that a lot of this, for our suspension industry, aftermarket suspension, the internet has really, really muddied up the waters. Most manufacturers are, when you have this high-flying website, people automatically assume you're a legitimate business. Well, you wouldn't put anything out that you wouldn't be proud of, right? Well, I can tell you right now, there's a handful of brands that are putting out product that I wouldn't be proud of. And these are guys that, moreover, my experience, they've got schooling and engineering. These guys are very, very technically knowledgeable human beings. And I've had conversations with them about suspension geometries and how come you guys are okay with this in this platform. I've put them together in the truck. I mean, when you, on an IFS truck, when you put a leveling spacer in and you can't even get the upper ball joint stud started in the knuckle, that's a problem. You shouldn't have to put the truck on the ground to hook up your upper ball joint, right?
No.
Mm-mm.
And so I've had conversations with these engineers, and unfortunately, at the end of the day, these are guys that are bound. They're an employee of a large company, and it is their job to take into consideration market share. So when someone on some conference table on a very rich, I'm sure, stained wood that I've never seen because it's imported from a different country, when they have this conversation, it's not about doing it the right way. It's not about integrity. It's about how do we get market share for that platform.
Right.
And that's a problem. That's a problem in our industry that we fight every day because people assume, well, if it wasn't good, why would this company make it?
Right.
It's crazy how some of these manufacturers can just put on a front and people buy into it. But I guess that's on them for not talking to guys like you or us beforehand. And once
again, even saying a statement like that puts us on a pedestal, and that's not our intent, right? Our intent is like we're the boots on the ground, right? We're putting the product in. We're chirping back to manufacturers, hey, maybe make this tweak, maybe make this tweak. Don't send a tapered block with this rear axle application because the pinion angle is running a little bit too light, and we're going to get a little bit of deceleration, vibration. These are things that they usually want our feedback, but when you want to call them back and say, hey, this entire segment of kit, you need to just get rid of. This is just going to create more issues for anyone than anything else, and they don't want to hear that. Right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, we're just trying to achieve what they want with their hard-earned money, whether it be the parts and the vehicle in the correct manner. As well as us that we're not in this to have 5 lake houses and yachts and power boats and stuff like this. We're kind of in it for the love of the game.
We picked the wrong industry, if that's what.
Exactly, and I tell that to customers all the time. I was like, if Travis or me, if we wanted to be millionaires, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. So
yeah.
And so that gives us a direction within our mindset, because if we were money driven, well, that would create a whole different mindset internally. But being that we're driven to be the best lift kit shop or the best resto shop, well, that's where our new mindset is. We don't have the distractions of being money oriented. We're
100%.
We're focused on
what you're investing in. Is you're investing in your passion, and you're investing in doing it the right way. And the hope is that it pays off. And it's something that we've invested 3 decades in. And once again, understanding it's not going to give us the lake homes or the yachts. We get that. But there's a lot worse places to live and a lot worse ways to live. And so if we can survive and make a living, and I can put my foot forward, put my best foot forward for every single customer that walks through my door, and truly put my customer hat on. And when that guy shows up in a 2017 JK Wrangler and he wants a re-gear, I'm going to direct it and I'm going to guide him if it were my 2017 JK. And there will be times as a business owner where you are forced with a decision to make. I make more money doing this, but if it were my truck, I would do this. And I'll give you an example of that we've put our money where our mouth is. Jeep Wrangler platforms, JK, LJ, JL, JT, Gladiator, all the, I don't know how hip you guys are on the 2-door codes, but it's a Jeep thing. Anyways, if a guy comes in and he says, I have a brand new JL Rubicon, I want a 2.5-inch lift, what is the best possible product you can put in my Jeep? I actually am going to sell him the only brand I would put in my Jeep. It's the only brand I have in my Jeep, and that's a Metal Cloak system. And those boys have absolutely taken a specialty niche segment of the Jeep suspension industry, and they have turned the world upside down. They've got patented bushings that soak up vibration dampening and road dampening. They've got dual rate coil springs. They were one of the first guys to do dual rate springs in the Jeep industry. Dual rate springs obviously aren't new to the automotive sector, but they're new to the off-road industry, and
especially Jeeps that are light duty vehicles.
Yeah, just their approach to doing it the right way, finding the best way. So if a guy comes in, I want to sell him that kit more than I want to sell him any other brand. And let me just say that Metal Cloak is by far not my most profitable brand, but when someone says, what's the best kit? I can't lie.
And that's
this one.
And that's good to know, because me and you talked briefly about that on a past phone call. And before, I'm not a big Jeep guy. I do like setting them up. I do like seeing how they turn out. I think they can be capable, but I'll be honest, at heart, I'm not a Jeep guy. So at that point, I thought the Rock Crawler kits were the kits that was just because Travis put one in. We did one in a JT. He took it to Moab, and that truck did so well that someone watched him who was trailing with him, or crawling with him. That Jeep did so well, he bought it as soon as the trip was over. So I was like, okay, well that's proof in the pudding to me. That kit must be that I can speak of. That's the top tier kit. Well, then we got on the topic of Jeeps on a phone call with Calvin, and then he started talking about these. And what is the exact name? Metal Cloak?
Yeah, it's metal cloak, like you would
metal,
wear a cloak,
and then like
so
cloak.
Metal Cloak.
Okay.
And I also want to just briefly state that I'm not trying to step on any toes. My opinion is one of millions, so you don't have to hold a ton of weight with what I say. And I'm sure there's some people at some
just say it. That's fine.
Don't want to hear what I have to say, but it's how I feel, and I'll say this: the Mattson and Will and the boys at Metal Cloak, They have, in my opinion, risen to the top as the premier Jeep Wrangler, and they've done other platforms as well, but they kind of come from that same cloth. They've been in the industry, and you guys have learned this. I mean, guys don't leave this industry. They just move around, right? And so the Metal Cloak boys, I mean, they have like over 100 combined years of suspension lift kit industry knowledge and having worked for other brands, right? And like that fuels capitalism, man. I can do this better than you. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to take a group of guys. I'm going to invest in ourselves. We're going to set out on a mission, and we're going to do this, right? And Mattson rolled up to my shop. This would have been about 2009. We had played with some JKs. We were primarily using BDS and JKS, and they are fantastic brands as well to be using on the Jeeps. It depends on how you're using the rig, and that's another important factor.
That's the first thing I asked.
A 43-year-old insurance agent with a JL on 35s or some 20s, that's a very different lift kit requirement or need than a guy that's going to go to Moab or going to go do the Rubicon. Totally different. So I'm actually doing the insurance agent a disservice if I'm selling that person more than what they need.
Overkill.
Using it, right? And now, don't get me wrong, I still have some of those insurance agent type customers. And if you're an insurance agent, that's awesome, and I'm sure you can still wheel just as hard. So I don't take that as a slight if you sell insurance. You're very needed. But yeah, on the there's just a spectrum. Where do you end up? And it's like getting a custom tailored suit, right? It's exactly like that, and it's your shirt's not going to fit the same as the next guy's shirt needs to, and that's fine. And so it's something that we're very proud of. Mattson came to our shop in like 2009, and he comes rolling in. You gotta understand, this is 2009, so this is before the JK, the JK didn't blow up yet, right?
I think 08 was the first year.
Obviously, the design of the four-door, in my opinion, is what blew the doors wide open, because the added wheelbase gave you the drivability of something that a soccer mom or you or me are fine with driving to and from work, right? When that four-door JK platform exploded, Mattson comes by, and at this time he's in a bright red, like Hemi-swapped four-door JK on 37s or 40s, and I'm like, who's this guy? This thing's awesome, right?
Yeah.
He looks at me and he goes, "This is in the times where if you wanted a very capable rock crawler JK or TJ, you didn't even question it. Any shop was foolish if you didn't do a long arm system. So if you didn't move the control arm mounting pockets closer to the center of the vehicle to gain articulation and also gain a easier, happier suspension ride angle on the road, you were doing it wrong." That was literally the mindset. And he comes by and he starts preaching LCG, low center of gravity. He starts preaching short arm capability if you have the proper bushings with the proper amount of articulation and travel. If you have proper bump stop and shock setup with the proper coil droop, you can achieve more, the same or more, with a short arm system versus going to a long arm. And oh, by the way, it does not need to be done anymore with a Johnny joint, tube, stiff poly bushing haft, metal ball, spherical sleeve center that doesn't absorb any of the road bumps, the potholes. And so he goes, "Where's your nearest 30-mile-an-hour residential S curve?" And thankfully, there's one right down on our frontage road. We may or may not have pushed our ZL1 at about 70 in this S curve before the tires start pushing. Right, it's a pretty aggressive S curve, and if you miss, you're going into the swamp. And we get into Mattson's JK, and I'm in the passenger front seat, and this dude is flying. I don't know this guy from Adam. I think we're for sure going to die. And we fly into this S curve. He's going about 55 in a JK with 37s, and we stayed in the right lane. The tires never chirped. The truck never slid. We came to a stop, and I said, "That's all I need to know. What are we looking at?"
Well, that just means everything was staying planted.
Yeah.
So, which is ideal when you're crawling. Same concept,
It was unreal.
Railing a curve in a Z06, you want stuff to stay planted. When you're you got two different levels of rocks on each side of the Jeep. You want as much surface on the ground as possible. You want to stay planted. I mean,
100%. And that's a lot of
the board.
Premium suspension brands for the Jeeps now. They're going to be designed for droop travel. So it's, it's kind of like we want our Jeep to act like a spider. We want its legs to just fall down into that rock crevice, and we want this one to come all the way up in here. And so not to dish on the Rock Crawler or Rubicon Express or TerraFlex, there's about 120 Jeep suspension lift kit manufacturers, ranging from stuff you should not be touching or looking at all the way to stuff that, Evil Manufacturing makes a 4-corner coilover conversion. It's a beautiful thing, really. But the price point of it, you could actually go buy a Jeep for what the kit costs, right?
For sure. Yeah. And that's right before we jetted over here from our shop. I was on the phone working with a customer. He's got a 20 JT Sport manual. And he simply said, he's like, Rob, I want to clear 37s. I will not be going off-road. I want the look. Straight up. I was like, okay, fair enough. That's all I need to know. So and I was like, that's just like you said, that's the first thing I ask, especially with Jeeps. The same can be said with like 1-ton trucks. I always ask, what are you hooking up to? How often are you towing? A few simple questions can A, gain trust between you and the customer, and then B, help you execute, the job. Just gets you solid direction, essentially,
and like you said, it helps you kind of navigates you, even though you have knowledge and we have knowledge as I guess industry authorities or people that have a little bit of knowledge.
You still got to find out either which way.
100%. We still have to use the tools properly. In order to use the tools, we got to know what the situation is. And so I think you're right on the money. It's something that whether we're doing muscle car work, we do a ton of. We're Mopar muscle car heads, and we're all. Like I said, I have a Chevelle at home, so I'm kind of a trader Chevy guy. I love my Chevelle, but I love Mopars too. They're all cool. So it's the same thing, right? The gear ratio we're going to pick for your 70 Roadrunner is completely dependent on, are you doing a gear vendor's overdrive? Are you going to keep an automatic? Are we going to go to a TKX Tremec? Is this thing going to the track? When we spec out an axle build, we build custom axles, and we're also a dealer for Strange for crate axles. It's like I'm going to interview the customer. Are you going to the track? Are you running a sticky tire? How tall of a tire? Do you need 5/8 wheel studs? Do you want to do a helical limited slip that doesn't chirp? Or do you want to go aggressive and do a Detroit locker that it's going to leave 2 bacon strips every time, right? It is. It's like an interview. And let's maybe say this. If as a consumer, anyone listening, if you go to a shop and they don't ask you these questions,
should be weird.
That might be a red flag.
Right. Sure. And and it's crazy when you say that, because even I've learned throughout the years, it's like when somebody comes in and they want a build done or want something like that, like the first thing you do is you start asking, it's like your checkoff list. And what really, and just like that blue bike we did for Dave, and he came in and brand new Harley, and we had our meeting, and he came in and he's like, here's he brought us pictures, and he's like, here's the bike I bought. This is what I want. I want these big, long stretch bags and all this. I want full air suspension. I'm like, all right. And I'm letting him talk. I'm trying to get a feel of what his intentions and stuff are. And I said,
very quiet guy too.
Yeah, super nice guy, but very he doesn't say,
you kind of got to pull it out of him.
Yeah, but once you do, he's a super great guy. But he gets all done, and the first thing I look and I look at him and I said, because it's a brand new Road Glide, and I said, "Are you planning on driving this bike?" Yep. He's like, "I'm going to take it to Sturgis and back." He said, "I'm going to, I plan on riding it."
Like, dude, no way.
And I'm like, then this is not the bike for you. And he kind of looked at me and like, hey, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and you're telling me no. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna actually ride this bike across states and do road trips with this thing, those are the wrong bags and it's the wrong suspension. I'm telling you right now. But if you're looking for a bar hopper to just kind of like cruise around town for the look, you could get away with it. But if you're gonna use this bike, you're gonna come back and you're gonna hate me, because you're not going to like it. You're going the wrong direction.
So he wanted you to build a fully tubbed 70 Chevelle with lash the valves every 50 miles, high compression race car motor to try to go cross country.
Yeah.
And inadvertently, through that, asking those questions, you could argue that customer may have saved tens of thousands of dollars, because if he went to a shop where they just, yup, we'll give you exactly what you want, yup. Well, then the next thing you end up with is a guy that goes, well, I've got all this into this bike now, and it's not even close to it. I wish someone would have told me that it was this unbearable for long distances.
Well, and that, but now it's like he spent all this money on something that he does not like, and he hates it, and it's not enjoyable for him. It's just, it's a double-edged sword to the negative right there.
Resentment, not only geared towards the vehicle, and then it'll just make a guy get rid of it at whatever cost, but it can also build unneeded resentment between the builder and the customer.
Yeah.
Well, then that creates bad word of mouth too.
When you're asking those questions.
Yeah. So build them what they want, even if it's not exactly what they came in, but asking the questions and giving them a final result and a product that they end up loving that works for them. They'll, it's like it'll go way further than just trying to make a sale. But it is, I've learned throughout the years of doing this as much as I have that, when I first did my first sale, probably my first 3 or 4 sales from like day one, it was like, you were just so happy to say yes. Like you just wanted that sale. It was all about making the sale, and you didn't ask the questions. But as you're in it and you start putting the stuff in and you start getting involved and paying more attention to what the business means and your dedication and everything else, that it wasn't about making the sale, it was about making a career out of this thing and making this thing a longevity, that you kind of taught yourself to step back and start asking those questions and making sure that you're not just making the sale, that you're actually getting what the customer wants at the end of the day, and to ask those questions. But
that's so crucial.
Yeah.
And it's something that unfortunately you'll never get from the internet. Ever.
Yeah. No,
ever.
Never.
And I think we need people that really want to respect and patronize and give us business to small local businesses like us. I think it is so crucial, to lean into the knowledge. If you've got a resource, if you've got, anybody that, like you said, has been doing it long enough where we kind of set the money part aside. We kind of assume, and this is a poor assumption as a business owner, but we kind of just assume, like, if we bust our tail and we have a passion and we do right by people, you just assume that you're just going to make it, and then like my dad will say, you wake up 30 years later and you look back and you go, holy buckets, like we're still here, and we actually have people that are sending work to us in droves, and we have people that I mean, they're constantly referring us, and we're not asking for any of this. I don't ask for Google reviews. I don't give you $10 off to go give me 5 stars. It's once again, you cannot fake it. And so at the end of the day, it will show. So how do you want to conduct yourself, and how do you want to direct the purpose of your business? So I think you guys are 100%, we're like versions of each other. Right. I don't know if our building's really, it's a pole barn really, and it's real nice and faded. We could use a facelift, but
when you got time to do that?
Yeah, we're in an old.
What matters is what's going on inside the building, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in our building is really old too, and it's got a stucco front, and the front of our building was actually falling off, and people were walking around it because it would like break off in clumps, and we finally got it fixed here, but it was like that for a couple of years. So yeah, I'm with you that. And it's funny, too, that you say that, because people have, and even Rob can probably vouch for this, too, people have actually pulled up to the shop and they walk into the showroom part, like the entrance, and they kind of step back and they kind of do a second chance, and they're like, it's not what I was expecting. It's all like done up. It's all like rustic and hoods, and like I got a custom spider web big railing, and it's like it's really... very automotive, and it's like got that feeling, you know what I mean? And so many people are thinking like you're just going to walk into this dirty, dungy parts desk and smells like
you got to blow off 3 inches of dust off your handwritten invoice.
Yeah, and it's like people are just blown away, and I've heard that so many times that they're like, well, it's not what I was expecting, and it's like, oh, okay, well, is that a good thing or a bad thing? But yeah.
I think you got to be careful. I mean, remember too, you start making money hand over fist, and all of a sudden, it's kind of like when people go to a casino and they're like, man, this casino's nice. This place is awesome. And you're like, yeah, you know, they don't just grow it out of the ground. They get money for it, and it's your money usually. Yeah. And it's the same thing, man. You got to sometimes be careful. And I don't want to undermine or undervalue guys that have made huge commitments and investments into their shops and buildings. And obviously, it's a goal and a dream for everyone to have a really beautiful shop.
So let's wrap this up. Let's definitely get together next week, and let's continue this, man. Who knows? Maybe there might be a third one. I don't know. I think we got a lot to talk about. So,
for sure, man. It's just a matter of if anyone's listening, right?
It don't matter. I'm having fun. Yeah. So
true.
Yeah, that's what it's about. So, hey, Calvin, I appreciate it with 4 Wheel Parts. Again, thanks for listening. You can check us out on our YouTube. You can check us out on our Instagram. We have Facebook. You leave comments if there's anything you want to talk about or about the show. Let us know. And stay tuned for next week when we continue this with Calvin. And we will talk cars, snowmobiling, whatever we feel like talking. But I think it's going to escalate and it's really going to, I think it's going to get exciting. So stay tuned next week. And thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
Thanks,
gentlemen.
You bet. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Unriveted Radio. Also available on demand with the SuperTalk 1270 mobile app. Download in the App Store or Google Play today. Unriveted Radio, presented by Dakota Customs, a full-service custom garage on the Strip in Mandan.
This program has been paid for by